Today on the Sellerboard Show, we're going to be talking to Robyn from Marketplace Blueprint on how to scale your company on Amazon in 2021. Let's get started. Welcome to the Sellerboard Show. I'm Christopher, and I'm really excited today because we have a world-known Amazon consultant and expert named Robyn, and she has been asked to speak at places like Harvard and some of the most prestigious conferences in the digital space, and is the founder of Marketplace Blueprint Academy. Welcome to the show, Robyn.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's always fun to get to share about Amazon and growing businesses. It's what I love doing, and I love getting to be a part of other people's kind of growth stories.
That's awesome. I can tell you're very passionate about it and watching some of the videos before we did this interview. Why don't you give a brief introduction and expand a little bit on where I started on exactly what you've been doing in the space and how you got here to begin with so the audience can get a good foundation.
Yeah, so I started selling on Amazon over a decade ago. It was a great time to start a business because I had an infant and a toddler, and I was working at a church. When you work at a church, they say the benefits are out of this world because the pay is not. And we were just we were just always scared, right? So the air conditioning would make a noise or the car would thump, and I would just think, man, am I going to be scared like this for the rest of my life? And we started. I was thinking, man, if I can make like an extra $100 a month, extra $500, that would just change our whole world, right? In We took $100 out of our emergency fund. We were doing the Dave Ramsey thing, and in
Absolutely.
about 3 years, we turned that into $1 million business. And so
Wow.
we grew that pretty quickly. Back when growing to $1 million on Amazon was a little bit different than it is now. Uh, there weren't as many people who were doing it. Um, we started coaching high volume sellers, and we did a combination of retail arbitrage and wholesale, and we started working with some of the best sellers in the space, kind of helping them grow and scale their business. About 5 years ago, we started our agency, Marketplace Blueprint. And so in addition to like coaching and providing courses to sellers, we started working with brands. So now we work with brands that are just starting all the way to brands that are, publicly traded, and they're in every Home Depot, they're in every Target, they're in every Ace Hardware or toy store that's out there. And so we've got a really wide experience of Amazon. So we've actually held inventory ourselves, so we know how being an Amazon seller can make you a little schizophrenic, because on a Monday you're poor and then Tuesday you're rich, and then so it feels Amazon can be a big roller coaster. I was invited to speak at Harvard for Women's Entrepreneurship Day. I speak at PubCon. I'm a regular contributor for Search Engine Journal, and I'm an SEMrush Academy professor. So I've started doing some academy things with SEMrush that are out right now. It's just the beginner class, so we have got some more advanced classes coming on that.
Wow. 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 That is really, really cool. Before we start digging into the Amazon stuff, what was the coolest thing about speaking at this entrepreneurship for women summit at Harvard University? What is just something cool that happened as a result of that? Did you see some amazing statues or some landscaping that just really caught your eye? Because that must have been an experience in itself.
It was an experience. So my dad is a lawyer, and Harvard for lawyers is a big deal, right? And my brother is, he got a law degree, and so he's like, well, if you were like your brother, blah blah blah. So I sent him a Facebook thing. I was like, which of your kids has been to Harvard? Harvard.
There we
And so,
go.
like, emotionally, I think that was probably the best. But honestly, it was meeting some of the amazing other women that had done these amazing, great things. I met somebody that had been on, had one of the best pitches for Dragon Den, and we got to
Right.
talk. One of the leading salespeople for Tupperware. My friend uh, also does a Latina mastermind that has really helped empower women. So it's been really awesome, and it was really weird. They had Ty Lopez as like the keynote speaker, which is kind of a
Whoa.
weird for yeah. So
Yeah.
I've got a picture with me and Ty Lopez, which is like some people say that's out of $5, but some people are like, wow, that's cool. You got to meet Ty Lopez.
Right.
Yes, so it was really fun.
That's a lot of amazing things to come out of a speaking engagement. Very cool indeed. And you're doing a lot with a lot of different faucets of the Amazon world. So I guess we can start off with how can manufacturers, brand owners, authors, even because I know you do KDP as well, get their product found and navigate all the new regulations that are always coming in, but still maximizing the sales and profits. So playing playing exactly how Amazon wants us to in the sandbox, but still, seeing that ROI, Robyn?
So I think a lot of times people think about Amazon with the wrong perspective. So let's start by changing your context around Amazon. If this is already your context, this is awesome. But when I think of Amazon, I have one customer, Amazon, that is a great customer, brings in lots of business, but moody and fickle. And so my best way to keep this customer happy is to keep our interests aligned. What I need for my business to make sure that I'm not doing anything that contradicts or stops Amazon to get from their goals. Because if it comes down to one of us not getting our way, let me tell you, it's not going to be Amazon. Like Amazon's always going to pick profitability. They're always going to pick them first. It doesn't matter if you are, selling $1,500 a month or 15 million a month. $15 million to Amazon is about how most of us view $1,500. It's not that big of a line item for them. So, sometimes people will be like, they don't understand I'm such a big seller. Amazon doesn't care how big you are, because in the grand scheme of things, everybody is small. So what I try to do is try to look at when Amazon gives a new announcement, like they say, hey, there's this new thing called the IPI. I try to say, what are their goals that they're trying to accomplish, or the problem that they're trying to solve? And let me make sure that I am out of their way so I don't get stopped. So it sounds like they're trying to preserve space in their warehouse. So then I have to look at, am I managing my inventory well? So looking at it from that perspective. And then when it comes to launching your products on Amazon, always remember that Amazon is customer obsessed. If you haven't read the 14 guiding principles of Amazon, you should finish listening to this podcast first. Once you're finished with this episode, exactly. then go read the 14 guiding principles. And then that will really help you better navigate and better communicate with Amazon. So for example, it can be really important, instead of to say, hey, Amazon, I need this fixed, to say, hey, Amazon, in order to, keep it, in order to enhance the customer experience, I want to prevent negative customer experiences by making this thing. So now they have to tell me no, I don't care about the customer if they want to tell me no. So it makes it harder, right? And now you can't just use that it's not a magic word, right? But if you use that spirit in the way that you're approaching Amazon, it goes a lot better. And Amazon, if you haven't noticed that the little arrow goes from A to Z, that's not on accident. They want to be the A to Z store. They want to have all the products available, and selling a lot is important to them. So you want to look at, is what I'm going to do going to help Amazon sell more products? That's how the search algorithm really is based on. It's with this customer types in clickety click this, what's the best chance for me to get that sale? That's how Amazon looks at it. So trying to making sure you're looking at really relevant keyword terms, not looking at just search volume. Those things all make a big difference. When it comes to your listing, there's two functions to your listing. You're bringing traffic to your listing, and then you need to convert. And sometimes those two goals conflict with each other. So you have to really balance that in your listing, and then use your ads to kind of support that. So that was a really long-winded answer. I'm sorry.
No, it's a great answer though, because it's not a magic wand type answer. And I think a lot of times that's what people are looking for. But in reality, Amazon's the biggest company in the world. And they are giving us the prime real estate that used to be reserved for companies like Tiffany's, in the middle of New York City. And we have this beautiful opportunity to compete with the biggest brands in the world. And even some of the brands are working with you as well, and they're competing with the smaller sellers. And we have to figure out how to align with Amazon so we can kind of be one with Amazon. And that's when working with an account manager at Amazon, that's what I really learned as well. And you're echoing the exact sentiment. How can we work together to give the customer the best experience? So I think that's a great answer. So besides aligning with Amazon and being one with the force on Amazon, what are some of the other pieces of advice that you would offer to optimize product listing and optimization on Amazon? We went through EBC, enhanced brand content, a couple of years ago. They got released for people on Seller Central, and now we're starting to see some other features unleashed. And sometimes with veteran sellers, you've been on the platform for a long time, and you might actually miss the fact that there's something else that's released. Your conversions start going down a little bit. You're not getting as much algorithm love with the search term. So what are some of these new features or different ways you're seeing your clients become more optimized and get better views and better conversions on Amazon, Robyn?
I think the way you bring up about veteran sellers is really important because I have a lot of people that have been selling it and they're like, oh, Amazon, there's no opportunity left on Amazon. I'm like, really? Because this guy just made 15 million. So, and it's not that it's not that it's just that what happens is when you've been doing things a certain way, it's easy to just to continue in that direction.
Mm,
And what modalities that you're doing, the techniques that you're doing easily become outdated. So if you're a veteran seller, I invite you to be looking at things from a beginner's mindset all the time.
mm,
Just because somebody's new doesn't mean that they don't have better insight, because sometimes they're coming through this not knowing that this is always the way things have been done, and so they'll find a great shortcut that I never would have thought of. So I think it's following people that are eating, breathing, sleeping Amazon all the time, right? So even I make sure that I take time out of my day to follow people like Destiny with Sean, to look and see what people are doing in different spaces. So I look at other influencers, other agency owners. I look at other sellers. I'm in a lot of group chats with sellers. Now that COVID's almost over, right? Then
yeah.
we can go back to conferences and don't just look at the roster, but look at what that roster is going to have, what kind of sellers that it's going to attract, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So look for people. You're looking for a conference that's going to attract people that are smarter than you. Always try to be the not don't be the smartest person in the room, and go and specifically try to make friends. If you're introverted, there's a book called charism, like be the most. There's a couple of books that are really good, and then
Okay.
there's always win friends and influence people. But when it comes down to tactics, what we're seeing, honestly, there's a lot of new programs, and Amazon's always opening programs. But when I audit accounts, so we'll do like advertising audits and listing audits for potential clients. And one of the things that I notice a lot of times, it's not that they are missing, this new program. It's usually that they've gotten so focused on those new shiny programs, they have not done the fundamentals.
Mm,
Proper keyword research, good copy, images that answer all of your customers' questions. If you're a private label seller and you see a lot of questions on your listing, that should be I'm not doing something right. Because
right.
when somebody goes and they type that question, it means I wanted to buy this so bad, but I had something that stopped me from buying that. And so instead I
Correct.
asked this question. So that means you need to integrate it. And sometimes people will say, but it's in my bullets. People don't read. You need to put it in your images as well as in your
True.
bullets. Don't be afraid to repeat that information in a different way, so it doesn't look just like you've copied and pasted, right? So
Exactly.
I think the basics of fundamentals, A/B split testing, I think is really important. Amazon is starting to, they have the manage my experiments, which they're expanding all the time into different things. If you're impatient like I am and you want to test, there's two software tools that do split testing. There's Splitly, and then there's also some SEM Rush has a tool on their Sellerly family, and that split testing tool is free right now. So that's kind of cool. And so A content early, some of the other programs like Vine, Amazon Subscribe and Save, Amazon Business,
Yep.
these are all things that will make incremental differences. But if you skipped through the important part, no special program is going to save you. You have to do the fundamentals.
That's so true. And now with more and more of the audience and Amazon customers going to mobile, and seeing it's looking at your listing on a tablet, looking at it on an iPad, looking at it on mobile, looking at it on a desktop, it shows up differently. And it could look spectacular on a laptop where not all of us, but the majority of Amazon sellers that are still selling are looking at while they're working, but it might look really bad on a mobile phone, or it doesn't hit the bullet points quick enough. And you really have to be thinking about all those different things because the customer is buying in these ways.
And especially with images, I find that sometimes if you haven't looked at it on a phone, you don't realize how tiny that text is. Now, if you're
Mm-hmm.
marketing primarily to 19 to 25-year-olds, that's no problem. They know to pinch. And even my husband, my husband's 45. Don't tell him I'm telling you, but he's old, right? So let's just say, he now needs readers in order to see. So before he could have just swiped through and probably seen some of that smaller font. Now you're relying on him to click in and to pinch, which he might not do that if the font is too small. He might even not even see that that's actually text.
Mm,
We had one audit that came through that when I asked him to look at it, I was like, can you tell me where you see text? And there was one part he thought it was a line. It was so small. And it worked
wow.
really well on desktop, but on laptop, it didn't work, right?
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to, yeah, just to do that A/B testing, like you said, and
Hmm.
in general, the way it goes out to all the different types of devices, but then going back and just making sure that it's going to perform well on all the different mediums that people are viewing on. And I think it's also a great point that you brought up earlier in that response, that it's wonderful to be around the top players in the Amazon space, but you also want to be taking and vibing with the energy of the
Yeah.
new sellers and the new people that are coming in, because a lot of times they're just trying to figure out how to get it done, and they have figured out something that's going to accelerate their business. And you can learn from them, and you can learn from the people that are bigger and better than you are, and you can of course provide value to the others as well. So you kind of have to always be listening, always be learning, always be implementing at all times. So that's a great reminder. Not only the big dogs, you also want the puppies.
Yeah. And one thing I realized is too, is that you want somebody who's fairly close in your experience, somebody who's ahead of you, but not miles ahead of you.
Right.
So if I'm trying to tell somebody how to start a new business, one of the reasons we stopped coaching like people who are brand new is because I haven't started a brand new Amazon business in like 11 years.
Right.
So it's different now. And I can say, well, just go spend $1,500 on this tool. In my profit and loss, that makes sense. In somebody who's new, that might not make sense.
Right.
So, if you're trying to, hiring somebody who's like a multi-million-dollar seller to help get you your first $1,000 might not be as effective as getting somebody who just got started and then moving your way up through coaches. And as a coach, I can tell you, I always love it when a client's like, wow, I've gotten so far. I'm ready to go hire somebody who's even, more successful. We have a lot of people who go from us to some multi-million dollar people that we recommend.
Recommend.
And
Yeah.
so there's great opportunity there. And when with new sellers, what sometimes what I'll see is they're trying to replicate what somebody did 5 years ago. Launching private label 5 years ago was completely different.
Yes, it was.
Starting RA 5 years ago was completely different.
There wasn't many things that were gated back then.
No, you could sell whatever. There were people who were taking Costco Keurig cups and like taking them out of the box and putting them in paper bags and stapling them, 10 years ago. I mean, it was the Wild West.
It was
And people,
wild.
yeah.
It was
Like,
wild.
you look back and it's kind of like you look back and you're thinking like, wow, that was really dangerous. No, somebody should have stopped us from doing that. And they
Yeah.
have. And people will say, well, you did it when it was easy. Well, it was just different. When I first started scanning, the scanner apps didn't tell you how much you would net. They didn't calculate that. You had to guess. So it's not that it's harder now, it's just different. And if you're not prepared for it to be different every 1 to 2 years, this is probably not the right industry for you.
Yeah, it's moving. It's
Yeah.
moving every single day, and that's a wonderful reminder to everybody. You can't just kind of just be successful and sit on a beach and do nothing. Unfortunately, there is some videos that might suggest otherwise, but you do have to at least have somebody that's running the machine and somebody that's paying attention. And we were talking about the people that were coming in, and even though you are a coach for some of these larger companies, I know that you have the Marketplace Blueprint Academy, and that's something that you're really passionate about. And I love the preview videos I was seeing. It's very professional, good production. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about that, if there's some new sellers that are looking to get going or just kind of enhance what they're doing already?
Yeah, so a long time ago, we started like the Unstoppable Amazon Academy. We still have that. And then now, because we do so much listing optimization and we're not, because we're working as an agency, we're not doing as much sourcing. We actually started a Facebook group. So if you go to marketplaceblueprint.com/Facebook, we have a listing support question. So if you're like, look, I've done this flat file 16 times and it will not upload, then we can
Ooh.
say, oh, is it in this category? They forgot to add the column. You have to go in and manually add the column for it to work.
Flat
You
files
know,
are so fun, aren't they?
My husband does all the flat files and he has no hair now. So
That should be a t-shirt right
yeah.
there. Okay, so it's right now the biggest aspect of that is the group, the community that's helping each other. Why don't you give that link one more time again?
Marketplaceblueprint.com/Facebook, and then it will forward you to the Facebook page. And we still do courses, like we did like a course for people who wanted to start their own agency. And so we still offer that kind of as a kind of as needed thing. But it's a lot of work and it's not for everybody. So
Gotcha.
but we offer like individual training and coaching as well. And it's been really fun to watch sellers go from nothing to multi-million-dollar sellers. And it's funny, the laptop lifestyle thing. I know a lot of multi-million-dollar sellers, and all of them work. I don't know anybody who does this. If you are one of those people, I would genuinely like to meet you, because
Right.
I feel like it's a unicorn and I've always wanted to meet a unicorn. I know people who work less. I know people
Yes.
who work 10, 15 hours a week, and then they have a really busy season. But everybody I know works.
Yeah, and it's possible. And my partners and I got it down to 10 hours a week at
Yeah.
a seven-figure size business before we sold ours. But it took a lot of work. It took a lot of work to get there. And we still had to keep our eye on the ball, Robyn. It
Yep.
wasn't like we just, set it and forget it. So yeah, I'd like to meet that unicorn too. That'd be a lot of fun. And my little daughter likes unicorns, so maybe I'd get a picture for her. But let's talk about some of those other, businesses, brands, and people that you're taking through the marketplace blueprint as an agency, as a coach. I would just love to hear, some stories without, of course, naming names or brands or anything like that. Just give us some context on some of the success stories, and how you took something that was kind of rough and you molded it into something that was beautiful.
So we've taken a lot of companies from zero, to much, to larger companies. One of our small companies, it was a lady that I met through a mutual friend, Sharon, and this lady had created this really cool educational card game, and she had
Nice.
a garage full of them. And she had tried to go to trade shows. She had tried to sell them at farmers markets. She could not move these things to save her life. It had been on Amazon for 6 months. She had gotten 2 sales. We took over the listing. We redid the listing. We started running some ads for her. We got her in the top 3% of toys, and she stayed there. And staying there's the key, right? Anyone
Yes.
can buy their way to the top, but staying there. And then we've also worked with really big publicly traded companies where their Amazon profile was kind of neglected. Their listings needed to be
Mm-hmm.
optimized. They weren't running ads. There was no brand defense strategy on their ads. So we had a company that is publicly traded in every big box store in their category, and we doubled their sales within the first 8 months.
Mm.
Which, to double somebody's sales from $100 to $200, that's, but when you're doing, tens of millions of dollars, it's a lot more
Wow.
exciting. So we've gotten to do a lot of that, and then sometimes we kind of do something in between. So we've had some educational companies. Educational toys can have pretty tight margins. So a lot of times in that category, we'll do like a 3-month consulting contract where we work on optimizing their listings, setting up some defensive brand strategies, kind of keeping their costs low. So it really depends on the category. We've had a couple of clients that just, even though they were large and they had a presence and they had search volume, we were able to really grow. And it really comes down to us focusing on fundamentals,
Mm-hmm.
proper keyword research, strong ad strategy, and making sure that we're enrolling them in the programs. Rest in peace, early reviewer program. You were my friend. I'm still mourning your
Oh
loss.
no, they took that away from
They
us.
took they took it. They killed it. Like
Wow.
I got the email. I saw somebody post it, and I didn't get a tear, but I thought about getting a tear because it was such a great program. But there'll be another program. But Amazon's doing some really cool stuff with stores, so you should be watching for. If you haven't noticed, every now and again, if you search for a really big brand, there'll be a link to the store in the search. They roll it out and they roll it back and they roll it out and they roll it back. But and then we have another listing where it's a larger brand, and Amazon has actually put their store page in the middle of their listing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Interesting. That's cutting edge. Yeah, I didn't even know
yeah.
about that. Very cool. So Yeah, sometimes with the larger brands, they really just don't have control of their page either, and it's a complete they have a complete misunderstanding of how to approach Amazon. Maybe it was an intern of an intern that was running Amazon, and now all of a sudden, 10 years after they started on Amazon, they realize that they're actually losing a lot of their share to these new companies that are popping up, and it's probably a completely different conversation and a completely different blueprint, if you will, when it comes to somebody that's just birthed on Amazon that you're working with in a big brand. So where do some of those, that's really, I think, be interesting to the listeners that are growing their business. So if you're taking a brand that's doing $10 million a year, or it's a publicly traded brand versus somebody that's at $100,000 gross revenue, what are some of those differences in your approach from an established brand that's now going to be enhanced on Amazon and a brand that was birthed on Amazon, Robyn?
So, smaller private label brands, because we work with some of those, and some of them are like, we would call them private label brands, but they're not, they wouldn't call themselves private label brands. They
Right.
would say, I saw this, I created this product. They would consider themselves more like Shark Tank entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
And so when I'm looking at companies about that size, and if that's you, I'm not talking down to that size. It's just different. There's not one that's better or more fun than the other. They're just both unique sets of circumstances.
Absolutely.
With smaller companies, we need to be much more ROI focused. So we have to be really conservative about the money because there's a finite resource, and we have to make sure we get some results quickly because we want to make sure that if this is not going to launch well on Amazon. Maybe it's a new to category and the world is just not ready for your product yet. And we need to do some social media ads. We need to do some, more top of funnel advertising. We need to figure that out right away. So you can stop paying me and you can start focusing your money someplace else. That's pretty rare that happens. But in general, we're going to be looking at more ROI based. We want to make sure that in your selection of your product is going to be really important, and you're selecting your product so that it will work on the marketplace. With the bigger brands, they launch a product and then we have to kind of figure out how to make it work on the platform.
Square
Uh,
peg, round hole, right?
yes, like we're going to fit this, we're going to jam it through. And for them, Amazon is. Do you remember Alice in Wonderland from Disney?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a little
So the
bit, I always watched it when I had a fever growing up.
yeah,
And I don't think that was the best time to watch it at all.
it might set somebody up for some illicit drug use because it kind of feels like like a little, but so I always explain to them that Amazon, if you're just selling off Amazon, you're Alice before she falls down the hole. When you
Wow.
fall down here, it looks like a butterfly, but it's really a bread and butterfly. So an example that's really easy for them to understand is on Google ads. Broad match means something completely different than it does on Amazon. Even though they're labeled the same, they act completely different. And so you don't understand that. That's why so many Google ads, when they try to just add Amazon as another channel, they struggle so much, is because
Yeah.
everything is upside down and things are labeled so it looks like they're not, right? So it can be really confusing. And then it's making sure that they, understanding Amazon's, there's certain things that they don't have control over, and it's very hard for them to understand that. And it's such a different way of doing business to start the way that most of us start with private label, that for them to understand that, or to understand how retail arbitrage works, a lot of times I'll have to tell stories like, I had a coaching client that did this, and it's this cute little old couple, and they do 5 million a year on Amazon and doing Nike sales. And so for them to understand how all of these things work, there's a lot more explanation. But I think that a lot of them are just so astonished with the good return that they get
Yeah.
compared to Google. I know that the grass looks greener on the other side. So a lot of successful Amazon sellers say, I'm going to go do Shopify. And the returns can be lower. A good ROAS can be 3 or 5. And one of the things that we have to tell them is that a 3 ROAS on Amazon, might, depending on the price of their product and their margin, might not be enough to even be profitable because of all
Right.
of Amazon fees. So it's kind of reshifting that.
It's a whole new language. It's like a whole different business, really. It's like
It
learning a
is.
whole entire different business because you have, these big brands have retail, then they have their own online store, and now you have to educate them on this whole new language. And so I'm sure that's a really interesting onboarding process. And along the way, I'm sure you've developed some really good SOPs to kind of, like you said, just bridge the gap so they can kind of get to where you need them to get so they can be extremely successful with your services. So that's great. Now, I guess like on the other side of things, there's always going to be the people in the brands that come in with unrealistic expectations, and they're not going to actually play ball with what you're telling them to do or what you're trying to do for them. So, in your experience, when you bring somebody aboard and it's just not working, there's just so many walls that they're hitting their head into, and they've had these misconceptions about what this business model was going to look like, or this new channel is going to look like for them. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, what do you think the most common misconception brands and individuals have when they're entering the Amazon infrastructure in 2021?
Well, I think that it's, not understanding how FBA works. For big brands, they don't understand how FBA works. They don't understand, like not being able to run ads when they don't have the buy box is something that's really foreign outside of Amazon.
Very
And Google, it
frustrating.
doesn't
Yep.
matter. Like you can run ads whether or not, there's nothing that's going to stop you really from running ads outside of, within Google itself. So there are a lot of things along that lines. I think that for the majority, I kind of got lost track. Can you simplify that question one more time? I think I lost my
Yeah,
train of thought.
no problem at all. So I'll just simplify it. You've seen individuals and businesses like get started with maybe your
Yes.
services or get started on Amazon, and they don't listen to the advice, or they have a misconception about how Amazon's going to go, and they kind of fall on their face one way or another, whether it's a new channel or this is a new business for them. So what do you think the most common misconceptions brands and individuals have when entering Amazon in 2021? And so we can educate the listeners so they can kind of get a foundation on the reality of what's going on.
So, usually I don't get a ton of those clients because I'm really honest. When people come in that sales process, I'm not like, what will it take for me to put you in a contract today? It's like, this is what's realistic. And sometimes they'll come to me and say, well, agency B said that they could get us to 15 million in 2 months. I'm like, well, you're selling $150 a month right now, so I don't think that's possible. And if it is, you should definitely go with them because I don't know how to do that.
There you go.
So if so there are times where, but sometimes people will, they have big expectations. We make sure that we try to provide that, something in writing saying, you know we don't know if we're going to be able to hit the sales goal.
Right.
We can play for it. But I think that, sometimes people have heard these success stories and they think that it's like bippity boppity boo, and that's not, there's no genie. And so it's understanding that it takes time and that there's a lot more complicating factors than there were 5 years ago. So having IPI being impacting your ability to hold storage changes the way that you have to launch, because we can't launch a
Absolutely.
whole bunch of products and risk having a whole bunch of stale inventory, especially if you already had inventory in there that was already stale. So the status of your account, the velocity of your product, the amount of search volume. The thing that I think is most important for brands to understand before they're looking to launch into Amazon is that Amazon is the best as an end of funnel marketing.
Hmm.
So, we're better at bottom than we are at top. Now, Amazon is getting new top of funnel strategies. A year, 2 years ago, I would have told you the sponsor display wasn't worth the digital space it was working, holding on the server.
Right.
It's getting better, and DSP is providing more things. The sponsored brand video ads are great for top of funnel. But when you think about Amazon, when was the last time you actually typed in an ASIN or you went directly to a link unless it was coming from someplace else? Never. People find products on Amazon via search. So either your brand has to be, or product name has to be searched, right? Or they have to know to type that in, or there has to be a keyword that is highly relevant, that has low competition, that can drive people to your page. So
Right.
if you have a garlic press, you're going to have to compete against a lot of people. So anybody can buy the way to the top of page one, but some page ones are more expensive than other pages ones. So garlic press is, you might have to spend 20,000 a month in ads in order to rank, even get close to ranking. And then for double left-handed underwater basket weaving kit for boys, you might only have to spend $50 a month, because there's not very many people advertising for that. But, there's a lot fewer people searching for that search term.
Right.
So it is
Exactly.
a balance. And so anybody who tells you that they can do magic, you want to know, well, what makes you feel that you're able to do that? Is it because we have existing search volume? Is it because our competition, like there's some categories like automotive and tools where most of the listings are just not well optimized. And so it has been fairly easy over the last year or so to be able to rank using strategies from other categories in that category. So, there are always new opportunities on Amazon. And so the market shifts. So if you had another coffee company that did really well 5 years ago, we get a lot of coffee and supplemental companies saying, I heard my friend Joe at the conference said he just did really well with Amazon. Well, launching coffee 5 years ago on Amazon was a lot easier. There was a lot less competition. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's become a lot more private label friendly, I think, in the last 5 years, and so you're seeing
Yes.
a lot of celebrity endorsements and all sorts of things that are changing the dynamics. That's just a great reminder. And even though, like you said, top of funnel with the Amazon video ads, even though maybe that's not leading directly to the sale, people are on Amazon to buy things.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are searching with keywords, that means they're not sold on that particular brand. And so if they see that video a few times, then maybe the next time it's a click and it's a purchase. And then if it's a consumable, especially, that top of funnel could really pay off. And I think that's a great point. I know before we sold our business, we didn't even launch the video ads. And I'm sure the person that bought our business is probably going to be thinking about or doing that right now. And that's a great way just to get more attention, especially if it's a brand that was birthed on Amazon. So great evergreen advice. Thank you so much, Robyn. So what else can you end us with or send the listeners to that you're working on? I know we talked about the Facebook group earlier. This has been a really, really value filled interview, and I really appreciate it. So just give one more shout out to exactly where people can find you if they want to optimize what they're doing. I'm excited about what you're doing. I think you're doing some great things, and you're really well versed in so many aspects of it. So go ahead and take us home, Robyn, with exactly where the listeners can find you.
So I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and I'm not Instagram because I'm not cool enough.
Me either.
I'm on Twitter because there's not you don't have to be as cool to be on Twitter. Wait, but you can find me. I have all of my stuff in one place. So if you go to Marketplace Blueprint, .com/follow. I have my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my Twitter on there. And then I also have a 20-page guide for listing optimization. And in there, if you go through, if you wanted me to do a quick 5-minute video audit of your listing, then I'm happy to do that for you. We find that a lot of times it's just getting somebody to have a fresh set of eyes on there. We also do PPC audits if you want us to check to see how your ads are doing. We had one client that we found just by adding one negative match keyword, they could save $8,000 a month. So I was like, "Ooh, that was a pretty big hole in the bucket." I was
that's 5 days at Disney World. So amazing. You want to give the link one more time since we're going on here?
Yeah. marketplaceblueprint.com/follow, FOLLOW. So marketplaceblueprint.com/follow.
Excellent. And those free audits that you're providing to the listeners are extremely valuable. I definitely encourage people to take Robyn up on that. And thank you so much for being on the Seller Board show today, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much for having me. I hope it was helpful.
Thank you for watching the Seller Board show today, and a special thanks to Robyn Johnson from Marketplace Blueprint for sharing so many valuable tips and hints for scaling your business in 2021 on Amazon. As a reminder, Seller Board is a software and mobile application with profit analytics, inventory management, advertising optimization, listing change alerts, scheduled customer messaging, request review automation, and money back made easy for your Amazon-based businesses. With plans starting at only $15 a month, Seller Board is generally the most affordably effective tool for Amazon sellers of all sizes. Sign up now for 2 free months with no credit card required at sellerboard.com and join the thousands of satisfied Seller Board customers. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.